Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Hybrid Friends. Today with me is my good old friend Marcel, who is the developer or innovator of a cool tool around Azure Virtual Desktop, which is called Hydra. And yeah, Marcel and I want to give you a quick intro into what Hydra is capable of and how we can, how you could maybe use it for your own AVD or AVD on HCI environment. So, Marcel, more or less, the stage is yours. Give us a short intro to yourself. What are you doing? What are your hobbies? All those stuff. Feel free to share whatever you want.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Flo. Yeah, good question. My hobbies. Yeah, I'm working in the garden. I really like it. That is, it fits very well to doing IT. That is what I do if I have some spare time left. But what I really love to do is, doing some stuff around the Azure cloud, doing some programming, and building tools and solution on Azure. And that is, or Hydra is one of the solution I built. There's another tool that is the free tool WVD Admin, and with the old name, which is an application which works also for AVD and makes some things in AVD much more easier than you can do it today in the Azure portal. Or you can avoid writing scripts by your own and use it. And the good thing is that I spent some time in the last weeks to extend the functionality of Hydra to not only manage Azure Virtual Desktop in the Azure cloud itself. I'm now ready, and that will also be released in the next days, can also manage Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI the first time with my tools. And that, I guess, is a good approach, while it also handles some challenges you may have if you do AVD on HCI. For example, autoscaling. I guess that is what we need to avoid paying Microsoft for virtual instances which are not in use by user. So the same challenge like we have in the native Azure world.
Do you want to say it's expensive to run AVD on-prem?
No, it's not expensive.
Just joking, my friend. So that's that's an issue I also encountered with lots of my customers having the so not having the auto scaling out of the box right now, and let's say having 7,000 users during the day and only 100 during the night hours. You know, those fancy developers who prefer to work at nights, having a family or anything like that. Or like us working in US time zone sometimes. So in the first place, if I'm interested in Hydra, I know I will also link your blog with all your knowledge bases and so, but how can I start? How can I get Hydra? I saw something cool, so it's while I was doing my research.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. It's available in the Azure Marketplace. And let me share my screen. Then we can see together what I'm saying. This one. Let me first go to the Marketplace. So it's pretty easy. It's in the Azure Marketplace. And like any other project or program or tool, you can roll it out directly in your Azure subscription. That has the advantage that is an app service and keyword and a small SQL database. That is all, and it's all in your subscription. So no data left to your environment. So it's all in your own. Not a real software as a service. From the perspective that multiple customers sharing one instance hosted by me, that is not the case. That is running in your subscription and you have full control. That was important for me, even as a German, where we have some challenges sometimes with data privacy and co. You know it.
Yep, I know. I'm German too. And okay, now if we enroll Hydra in our subscription, how does it look like? How do we what do we get from Hydra itself? Do you maybe have some kind of small demo on the capabilities first?
Yeah, I have it. So let me open my Hydra instance. So everybody who roll out a Hydra get their own instance and can use it. And that is my configured Hydra environment. It works multi-tenancy if you want to use it. In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 tenants in. So I can manage all of my host pools in the different tenants and can also see, that is what we are seeing now. We can see the different host pools I have in the different tenants. And I prepared some of the host pools to have some data in it to show it today. That is my normal AVD host pool that is running with Azure Virtual Machine on Azure itself. And you can see there are 3 sessions connected. There is capacity for 10 sessions. 2 session hosts are running, so you get a direct idea what happens with your host pool, how is the load, how many users you have, how many virtual machines are running. That is one view. And
one question on the host pools.
Yeah.
As you're running natively on the AVD agents and natively on AVD, so you also don't have any issues with, for example, enrolling server and Windows multi-tenant and multi-user environments like the Windows 11 multi-session hosts?
That are in this case, that isn't a multi-user session host pool. And if I click on it, we can see the different virtual machines are now running. That are these 2 virtual machines which are on. We have some user connected to the first virtual machine. Yeah, that is Windows 11 multi-user with M365. So the full package for the multi-user environment. And I also have, let me go once back, another host pool. For example, this one. Here's one icon. That is a one-to-one, a personal host pool where I'm assigned and I'm right now logged in. So that is my dev VM. And we can see that I'm logged in. And I started the connections, the test connection from this virtual machine to the other host pool to show, or to show some data here. And yeah, personal hosts, that is also interesting. While users can also have access to this page, not only administrators, and they will only see this icon here, my session and hosts. And if they click on that, they can see their personal host and can start and stop them, or trigger a schedule. For example, this host starts every Friday at 7:30 and is there located if I'm not logging in automatically. And I'm also able, in a kind of self-service, to reset or to log off my session if I have a full session, maybe on a multi-user environment. So that's also interesting, even for Azure Stack HCI. If you have personal virtual machine, you have to start the virtual machine, or to set a schedule on the virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI.
So it works the same like you would do in Azure AV in the Azure public cloud than on HCI right now.
Yeah. Let me show it. Let me scroll a bit deeper. I have one tenant that is an Azure Stack HCI. So no normal Azure Virtual Machine. And if I go in, you can see it here. The icon is a bit different, and that shows that as an Azure Stack HCI virtual machine as a session host. And that is what I mentioned before. I have an autoscaling rule on this host pool, and this started one virtual machine at 7 a.m. in the morning. That is the red line. The capacity was 6 sessions, but there was no session. And then I started logging in with several users. That is the blue line. And you can see the engine is monitoring how many sessions are connecting, and also how many sessions are connecting in a specific time, to make a guessing how many hosts are needed in 5 or 10 minutes, and starts the session host or the virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI early enough that they are ready before the users are logging in. And that is what you can see here. The red line, the capacity, which comes from the started session host, is increasing early enough before the user really hits. And then it goes up.
Do I scale by amount of users, or is there some other metric like CPU load, used memory, IOPS, or so I can also configure?
No, in this case, that is only by sessions. And that is how the Microsoft Load Balancer works. It's also counting sessions in the both options we have, but never is using CPU or memory. And to avoid getting in conflict, while maybe I could monitor the CPU, but that wouldn't help me if the load balancer would do their own thing.
Okay.
So that is the reason why I also go. And that is configured pretty easily, autoscale. From 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., I have the rule, it's a really easy rule, always 4 sessions must be free for the next user. And that is exactly what the engine is doing. It's monitoring how many users are connecting in what time, and ensures that always the capacity goes up to have 4 sessions for the next users left. And that is how it works. And let me check. We have here one virtual machine. We can log off users. I would now log off all users from this virtual machine. Log off users. And that is exactly the same way how it works for native Azure virtual machines. There are only a few things which are not working on Azure Stack HCI. For example, what I do with normal Azure virtual machine to lower the costs, if I deallocate a virtual machine by autoscaling, I switch also the disk type back from premium, 20 euros a month, to a cheap HDD, 5 euros a month. Only when the virtual machine is off. And on the next day, if the virtual machine is needed again, before it starts the virtual machine, it will also convert the disk back to premium, so that we're only paying for premium during the runtime and not during the off hours, which brings the cost down. And that is not working for Azure Stack HCI. And to be honest, there's only one kind of virtual machine.
Yep, there's one kind of virtual machine, and in this case, if you would charge for the different storage types, you would need to migrate the HDD between different storages, which is not feasible for the current on-premise capabilities. So how it is with VM or with host pool deployment, is that also possible through Hydra for either Azure and Azure Stack?
Yeah, that works in also in both cases. So if you do it for Azure, and let me go once back to give you an example. I go back to the design host pool, go in the configuration and have different settings also for the autoscaling, but also for new session hosts, how they should look like. I have a naming schema. If I deploy a new virtual machine, it would use this naming schema and would count up the hashes with numbers. I have my virtual network, which is important for something also to figure out what images are available. And that is then what I use. That is an image. And in this case, I reference an image by the name of the original virtual machine. And if I do that, I would always get the newest image built from this virtual machine called TAVD W11B10. Or I can select any other image I have in my Azure subscriptions, or also from the Azure Compute Gallery. So that is how it works for normal, or let me name it normal virtual machine, and also do the configuration, giving a virtual machine type, and that is then different in Azure Stack HCI. I go now back to the host pool running with Azure Stack HCI. If I do the same, and it looks exactly the same, and go to new session host rollout, I selected the network on Azure Stack HCI, and that makes it different. If I use a normal Azure subnet, then the view changed to have that I can select the Azure resources. And if I go back from the subnet and use my custom location Frankfurt, I can also select an image, the 11 multi-session, and instead of giving a virtual machine compute type, I enter the processor count and the memory, and that is the different.
And here the processor count is the vCores your virtual machine will get. Is that correct, or is that the correct assumption?
I guess that is the same what you configure if you roll out a virtual machine in Azure Stack in the Azure portal. I guess that is named as processor, but
Okay.
I guess that is a virtual core.
Okay, and from that point, so you're not like Citrix. You're not bypassing the Arc deployment. You're just sitting on top of the HCI resource AVD Arc deployment. So there's no bypassing during the manual. So you just stick on what Microsoft designed there, or is it something you're
Yes,
basically bypassing?
it's maybe a bit different. So what I'm using, that all based on ARM, the normal Azure deployment or virtual machine deployment on Azure, and also on Azure Stack HCI. So what happens in the background is exactly the same in the Azure portal for the virtual machine. And then there is a small differences. If the virtual machine is deployed, I inject a script which do the other things, like joining to the domain, doing some customization, and also at the end to join the Azure Virtual Desktop host pool. So downloading the AVD agent, installing the AVD agent, installing the AVD agent bootloader, and also installing some monitoring tasks to ensure that we nearly always bring the virtual machine to running. So there are sometimes challenges with the AVD agents, and that is what I can handle with the monitoring scripts, which supports the AVD agent installation. And that is exactly the same script and way I do it, how I do it for normal Azure virtual machine. So there's no differences, except building the virtual machine. That is different, and then installing and joining the domain, joining AVD. That is how I do it since 3 years. But that is all documented, no magic, no workarounds, so all natively. And that is how this virtual machine was built.
Okay.
And if I want...
And then it's also showing up in the billing so that our product groups that doesn't need to be worried about not gaining any money from it, especially when running on HCI. It's just also showing up in the billing, so everyone in the account team and with the product groups is happy.
Yeah, that is at the end the documented way how to install the AVD agent. And yes, you can validate it. If you take a look into the event log, you will also see the billing information items there. So there's no magic around that. It's only the way how to handle it. And if I want to deploy a new virtual machine, and we have already configured the rollout configuration, I click on plus, give the number how many virtual machine I want to have, and then I click on OK, and it starts rolling out a new virtual machine on Azure Stack HCI with the selected image, including all the other stuff like the AVD agent installation. And if that fails for some reason, it will also clean up. It will remove the network interface card, the virtual one. It would remove the hybrid compute resource. So that makes also clean if that not work, and then you can redeploy. Okay. And a good point, you can also say, I want to delete a virtual machine. And that also includes the sub-resources like the virtual network card.
Okay. And is there anything you also want to show, or where you think it's interesting? Especially, I see role-based access, and you always said that there is a different view from me being a user versus me being an administrator. How's that configured? Is that using my local Active Directory? Is that using Entra ID? Is there something you built within your app which is totally different? So
it's easy to answer. It's based on Entra ID. So in role-based access, you can configure different users or groups to have different access to the scope, and the scope can be a tenant, so I can give access to a specific tenant, and I can also drill it down to a specific tenant and a specific host pool, and give it a specific role. So that is that also works for helpless administrator, which may be able to log off user, but not to delete virtual machine session host. That can be then configured here on different scopes and different role levels. And what also interesting is user session. If I click on user session, you can exactly see all the users connected in any tenant on any host pool in one list based on the permission you have. So I can see all host pools, I can see all users, and that are test users except one who is working. And these are the users on Azure Stack HCI. And here are two users and two other users connected to the other host pool based on the normal Azure Virtual Machine. Oh, sorry, one. So yes, you can work with the user, you can select user, you can send them messages, you can log off them, you can disconnect them, all what you would expect from a solution to handle or to work with the users.
It really looks interesting. And to be honest, I have a few customers where I already think, okay, maybe showing that. Maybe you can switch to your marketplace item, because there's one thing, especially now, people being interested in the solution, they would ask, what are my costs? And when we go into your plans, I really enjoy seeing the model you're running here. So as an MVP, so we didn't mention you're a Microsoft MVP, so you're one
Mhm.
part of that awesome community. You have a community edition, which is free, which gives you a few, if I see that right, a sessions host with a single host pool and single tenant to test everything out, get a feeling. And if I'm a more matured enterprise,
Mhm.
I really like that approach, going for concurrent user per month.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a good old time. Yeah. Mm.
yeah, the
Yeah.
good old times with terminal servers, which I would
Yeah.
have also enjoyed for AVD, but and so how so you're offering it through the portal. You're having that community edition. Is there, and now let's imagine I'm a large enterprise. I want to just try that, have that in my enterprise environment. How can you support, or how will that be supported? And um, are there any caveats for let's say larger customers in this case?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, it's for the first months, it's completely unlimited to test it. That can be extend if needed. And after this, it goes down, or it swap over to the community edition. And the community edition means you can see and you can work with up to 6 session hosts per pool, unlimited pools. So that is the only limitation, 6 hosts per pool. All the other things are working as usual. And if you want to have more hosts after the first month, then you can license it also via the Azure Marketplace. So no direct contract is needed. Can directly paid via the marketplace, via the Azure subscription at the end, and that is $2 or euros per concurrent user per month. So if you have a high water mark of 100 users in a month, then the sum is 200 euros for the month. So pretty easy. And if you have in the next month only 10 user, then it's 20. So really fair, independent from the named user, only the high watermark of concurrent users.
And it's at least for me, it sounds as reasonable and fair pricing for a tool which you put on top of a framework offered, especially here with Microsoft Azure and Azure Stack HCI, compared to others in the marketplace, or in the market itself. So we all know them. No, sounds fair. Sounds like a reasonable and production usable tool for me. So I would definitely try it out in the next days. So I would say, with that, leaving that impression and testing to the community itself, we can just switch off your sharing if you like, and just close out our video for today. And
if you like, I can show you one point, which is, I guess, very important to see.
Yeah, of course.
One important or two important parts is what I often is asked, how do I work with the images? Do you need an image which installs software? And what I do in the normal world and in the HCI world now, if I have a golden master with all the application installed by a software, by Intune, for example, or manually, and if you have done this, I can go to the image builder, and that can capture an image without destroying the golden master. So what normally happens if you do that manually, you run sysprep at the end, which destroys the virtual machine. You can no longer boot them. And here I can do that without crashing my original virtual machine, while Hydra makes a copy and makes at the end sysprep on the copy, and your original virtual machine stays intact. That works pretty well, and I do that for a long time. That's very popular and really easy approach. And that is also what I want to have for Azure Stack HCI. having a normal virtual machine, installing my software, say capture an image, and also put it directly into the custom location so that it is available after the imaging process. Here's one log of the older on imaging from yesterday, and then we can use it in Azure Stack HCI with the installed software. That is one point, and the second point is how to maintain your Azure virtual machines, and for that you can have scripts in Hydra. There are some built-in scripts, for example, install Windows updates, and you can add additional scripts. So that is what you can run. And more powerful are collections, and collections could be several scripts in a row, or let me show you one. Update. That is what I often use, update. Install Windows update with shutdown. And if I open this, you can see that are not only scripts, that are steps. For example, if I apply it to a session host on Azure Stack HCI or on a normal Azure virtual machine, it will go through the different steps, bring the VM into drain mode, logging off users, start the virtual machine if it's not running, and then run the script we have seen before to install Windows updates, do a restart to apply the Windows updates, and then check if there may be some other Windows update left, which are dependent on the updates from before, and then restarting the virtual machine, deallocating, and removing the drain mode. And if I do that to one, and we can do that pretty easily directly on a virtual machine, for example, and normally I don't recommend to do that on a virtual machine where users are sitting on top, but only for a demo. I can select one on multiple virtual machine, go to this icon, select Windows update with shutdown, so our collection from before, and then it would start directly applying the different steps to this virtual machine. And at the end, I have a full patch virtual machine, and that is pretty nice. And a bit nicer is, if you don't want to do that manually, you can go to script schedules in the configuration of a host pool and also add this collection, Windows updates with shutdown, apply it to all session hosts, maybe in this case to all session hosts without sessions, on all hosts each Sunday in the morning. And I can now save it, and that would patch me every Sunday all virtual machines in the host pool, independent if that are based on Azure Stack or on normal, or if that are normal Azure virtual machine. So in short.
Yeah, and one thing I really see here is the whole UI is pretty responsive, even if you go to so many menus, and I see the data was pulled. So maybe also one thing our Windows Admin Center guys should take a look into.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty amazing software you built here, and I know that's one of your personal projects you put on when you started, and what you built here is rather amazing.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I get a lot of feedback from the community also to my other tool, WVD Admin, and that is all what I use to put in here, and it's improved, not on a weekly base, but maybe in average every 2 weeks we will see new features, small little improvements as a reaction to feedbacks from the community or from clients.
How is it when I want to so I have now deployed the tool in my subscription, and now you release a new version. Is there some kind of update button, or is there some repo which is pulled?
Yeah, you can directly update the engine here. And yes, there is a repo, GitHub, and you can subscribe to the repo. Then you get all the updates notification, and then we can also see here a list of updates I made.
Okay. So that's you built something impressive here, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
But maybe leave us some teasers for next time. So I think there will be a lot of questions afterwards. Hopefully, people using the comments use the option to contact you. So I will put your LinkedIn profile beneath. And yeah, as I would definitely give it a try myself. I have also 1 or 2 customers in mind. I would just ask them to give it a try.
Sounds good.
And see what's coming next.
Thanks a lot.
So any last famous word, Marcel?
Enjoy Azure. It makes really fun working Azure on HCI or in the public cloud. I'm a big fan of that. And I really love working with customer. And if any feedback or question, I'm happy to support.
Amazing. With that, I want to close for today. Subscribe to the channel. As you know, there's more to come. If you want to have an additional session with Marcel, get more insights, just drop a note in the comments. Also your questions. You can also contact Marcel directly using LinkedIn or his MVP profiles, blog posts. It will be everything linked in the description field. And Marcel, you're the first one. I'm now trying Copilot for the summary on the subscription. We'll see how that works. You will give me a review.
We will see. Sounds good.
With that, have a great one, everyone, and bye.
Bye.